3 seconds. The ridge inhaled, then exhaled gunfire that turned breathing into glass. Harper Quinn felt the shock in her teeth before the rest of the team did. For 3 months, she'd worn the label recruit like a second uniform, invisible. Harmless. The paperwork mistake nobody wanted. Now the mountain was keeping time with bullets, and the joke had run out. Wind bit at exposed skin, 1,000 crystalline needles riding the gusts. White Kit ghosted across the slope as Commander Chen led the formation with the patience of a man who'd survived too many winters. Sergeant Kang moved 2 steps back, always scanning, always hungry for a mistake. Lieutenant Park, radio tight to his chest, kept the comms clipped short. Harper slid into the rhythm expected of her mechanical. Efficient. Sling checked. Mag seated. Breath measured. What she carried inside stayed buried, long nights reading wind like scripture. Drills that never made it onto her file. Out here, none of it mattered unless the ridge decided to listen. They angled toward the outcropping observation post, Alpha. Half a click ahead, and the mountain whispered its warnings. Trails in the snow that cut wrong. Powder disturbed against the wind. A metallic wink from the eastern ridge. Harper opened her mouth to call it, but Kang's voice was already loaded with dismissal. Too slow. Quinn, don't get someone killed out here. Park drifted back beside her. You see something, he asked. Barely louder than the wind. East ridge. Possible optics or comms. He lifted glass, confirming in silence. For a heartbeat, the squad moved as one strung taut. Every man a gear in the same machine. Then came the sound every manual turns into a warning legend, a clean, distant crack of a sniper's rifle. Snow burst 2 feet from Commander Chen's boots. The slope erupted, rifles raised, bodies dropping low, Harper rolling behind a boulder as muscle memory took over. Kang's voice stabbed the radio. So much for your recon. Quinn. They knew we were coming. But Harper saw more than the shot. She read the valley itself angles that trapped movement. Funnels shaped by wind. Geometry designed to kill. This wasn't a stray patrol. It was coordinated. It had a center. Someone was calling shots from far beyond reach. Another crack from the east confirmed it. Then snow erupted 30 meters to their left, not impact, but warning. The outpost had just spoken. Sound off. Soldier, where are you watching from? Subscribe to Quiet Valor Stories and stay in the fight. Inside the cave, the air felt thicker than the cold, heavy with fear and the metallic tang of adrenaline. The mountain's howl was a distant bruise through stone, but inside those walls, tension cut sharper than any wind. Rodriguez moved with quick, efficient hands at Kang's leg, bandages already darkening as blood found its path. Wilson and Chen held the entrance like a broken hinge, rifles leveled at the white blur beyond. Park tugged his headset away and swore under his breath the comms were a soup of static. No fix, no lifeline. Chen's eyes swept the team and stopped at Harper. The recruit sat calm, the long case open at her knees. Piece by piece, she began assembling a weapon that didn't belong in a standard-issue kit. Kang spat through clenched teeth. She thinks she's going to save us with a magic trick that's suicide. Chen cut him off with a look and a single order. Quinn, can you take out their command post? Harper didn't flare. I can. Her voice was flat. Cold as the cave mouth. Her hands moved with the kind of practiced economy you only get from repetition, scope locked. Rail checked, bipod readied. Park drifted closer, glass half raised, eyes narrowing on the rifle. XMC. He breathed. Custom, not standard issue. The realization hit him like a slap. William Quinn's daughter. The name landed like another bullet. Even Kang stilled. Chen's jaw tightened. Is that true? Harper nodded once without looking up. My father trained me, records classified. I've made shots like this. Silence pooled in the cave, broken only by the scuff of pencil on paper as Harper sketched conditions. Her voice was clinical as she read the numbers aloud. Target. 300 meters. Elevation differential. 120 meters. Crosswind. 15 knots northwest. Aim 114 minutes of angle high. 27 minutes left. Each term landed and fixed itself in the room. Even the doubters had no answer for sums and physics. She finished the final adjustments, braced the rifle against the rock and breathed into a rhythm. Outside, the enemy shifted figures moving, positions tightening like a noose. Rodriguez's whisper came like a verdict 15 minutes before they're on top of us. Chen made the choice that had to be made. Quinn, one shot, make it count. Park, cover. The rest of us move on your mark. Harper slid toward the cave mouth, eyes finding the thin shelf 30 meters north, the only geometry that gave a clean corridor and a prayer of line of sight. It was exposed, borderline suicidal, but it was the shot they had. Park checked his 0 and offered a hard nod. We moved together, Kang rasped from his cot, the old anger laced with pain. If you miss, we all die. Harper looked back, calm and small in the doorway, green eyes steady as compass points. Then I won't miss. She stepped into the storm. Commander Chen didn't waste breath. The cave had bought minutes. Harper's impossible shot had bought chaos, but survival demanded motion. Formation, Alpha. Quinn. Park, you're on point. Not a single objection. Even Kang, ghost pale with blood loss, could only watch as the rookie he'd scorned stepped into the lead. They slid into a ravine that hours earlier had been a kill funnel. Now enemy squads staggered in confusion. Leaderless and broken, Harper's gaze swept the white expanse. Unblinking, Park murmured. Most snipers wouldn't even attempt half that distance. Harper answered without pause. Principles are the same. You just respect the variables more. For the first time, Park believed her. Midway through the pass, Harper's fist shot up. The column froze. 3 o'clock. Ridge line, 400 meters. Chen raised binoculars, barely catching the shimmer of movement. A patrol, trailing their path. They haven't seen us, he whispered. We hold, Harper advised. Minutes crawled, the patrol fading back into the storm. Chen studied her sidelong. She'd caught it with the naked eye, what he struggled to confirm with glass. The forest promised cover, but Harper lifted her hand again. Snow disturbed semicircle pattern. Defensive prep, ambush 200 meters ahead. To most it was unbroken frost. Chen didn't hesitate. Alternate east ridge. Steep climb, but we take high ground. Kang grimaced, clutching his bandaged leg, but muttered, better late than dead. The ascent punished lungs and legs, but when they reached the ridge, the truth unfolded below a perfect kill zone. Tripods and overlapping arcs waiting to shred them. Wilson whispered the obvious. We'd be corpses down there. Chen's voice was iron. Quinn's saved this unit 3 times today. The slope softened. Trees thickened, and Park's GPS beeped. Extraction. 1 click. Relief swelled too early. Harper's head snapped up. Northwest ridge snow shift. 600 meters. Hostiles moving fast. Rotor blades thundered the valley, a Black Hawk dropping hard into view. The team broke into a sprint, beacon flashing, perimeter forming. Gunfire cracked from the ridge, tracers ripping the snow. Chen's shout split the chaos. Suppressing fire, now Harper dropped prone beside Kang. Rifle locked, eyes lit with steel. Her controlled bursts reached for shadows on the ridge. The outpost was ashes, but the fight wasn't done. The Black Hawk's door gun roared fire into the tree line, carving seconds out of the storm. Seconds that would decide whether anyone walked off Ironveil alive. 4 hours after the rotors stopped rattling her teeth. Harper sat under harsh fluorescent lights while the mountain replayed in pixels and heat signatures. The operations room smelled of coffee and static. Intelligence officers argued in low tones over satellite feeds, thermal blooms along the Ironveil ridgeline, a spiderweb of red icons unspooling into retreat. Colonel Westfield stood with arms folded, disbelief softening into something like pride. "So let me get this straight," he said, eyes moving from Chen to Harper. Specialist Quinn neutralized a fortified command node at 4,300 meters through shifting mountain winds with a single shot. Chen didn't flinch. "I saw it myself." "Sir." We all did. Harper's posture stayed exact. The rookie mask had fallen away, but the calm was the same. "My objective was to sever their coordination long enough for the team to move," she said. Voice even, mission accomplished, and then some. Westfield answered. New frames populated the main screen patrol tracks, folding back on themselves. Vehicle icons reversing along goat trails. Positions blinking from solid to empty. The intel chief jabbed a capped marker at the map. When that comm node went dark, their northern offensive collapsed. "We're watching withdrawals across multiple sectors, things we couldn't prod loose in weeks." Silence filled the room with weight. Harper didn't reach for the praise. "My priority was the team," she said simply. Westfield let a thin smile play at his mouth. Then he flipped another image up a grainy still of a hard-eyed man beside the antenna she'd destroyed. "One more thing, the commander you took out, Valentine Resnick. Former Special Ops. He's been knitting that offensive together for months." The implication landed like fresh snow, quiet, but heavy enough to crush. The colonel straightened. Directive from above. "Your cover with Commander Chen is terminated, effective immediately. You're being reassigned to Task Force Apex as a precision specialist." Chen opened his mouth to argue, then closed it and extended his hand. "Privilege serving with you." "Quinn." Harper accepted the handshake and squeezed once. "Privilege was mine." "Sir." Later. In the dim hum of the operations center, Park found her tracing retreat lines on the display. "You changed the board with one squeeze," he said. She looked up at him. The team moved through the opening. "That's why shot matters." Park tipped his head. "Apex handles the missions nobody else can touch." Harper thought of wind vectors and the tiny math that had saved them. "Then they'll want the same calculations," she said, "and the same trust." A duty officer hurried in, breath fogging in the cold air drifting from the loading bay. "Ma'am, orders just came through. Your wheels up at dawn. There's a sealed packet for you." Harper took the envelope. The seal read, "Operation Distant Horizon." She slid it under her arm, jaw closing, beyond the ridgelines. Something else was already waiting, already breathing. Night cooled the range into a hush before Harper finally exhaled. In her palm lay the patch Chen had pressed into her hand, edges frayed. Heat carried from 1,000 stories she had yet to write. Behind her, the classrooms at Fort Hadley glowed with steady persistence targets reset. Brass swept into neat piles, wind charts taped to cinder-block walls like prayers whispered over and over. Ahead, the dark swallowed a transport's red beacon and returned it as promise. Half a year earlier, the world had written her off as a clerical mistake with a rifle she didn't deserve. Now generals spoke her name like an answer to unsolvable problems. It felt surreal until Kang's boots crunched in the gravel beside her, grounding her back into something ordinary. "Range is quiet," he said, settling next to her. For once. Harper studied the far berm dissolving into shadow. Quiet's where the real lessons hide. Kang gave that half laugh. the one that betrayed reluctant agreement. Your recruits, they're starting to see it. Wind calls, discipline, the patience. They don't need myths, Harper said, tracing a fingertip across the patch's stitching. They need habits. Habits that don't betray you when the mountain decides it wants your pulse. He considered her profile, voice dropping. You ever think back to day one? You, me, that ridge. What stayed with you, not the distance, not even the hit. Her gaze stayed on the dark. It was the 10 seconds after, the moment the team moved because they trusted the opening would hold. That's when the shot mattered. A gust rolled down off the hills, tugging at their sleeves like a stern instructor. Somewhere on base, a bell tolled the hour. Orders waited apex, horizon, and other names that would ask for precision beyond polite numbers. Harper slid the patch into her pocket and rose. Ready for what's next? Lieutenant Kang asked. Challenge softened at its edges. She answered the way the mountain had taught her, without bravado, without apology. Always. They walked toward the lighted classrooms, toward a unit still being built, toward men and women who had learned that distance is a question of respect, not swagger. Overhead, another helicopter carved a corridor through the dark. Its downdraft pressed against them, like the breath of some larger engine, the machine that turns, resolve into outcomes. And if the ridge had taught anything, if that impossible 300-meter truth had left a scar worth keeping, it was this: you are never what they call you before the work begins. And the second lesson, the one that endures precision, is only courage, trained long enough to wait.